Closer.
I can hear me. Okay, we'll start out with an invocation. Scott, would you please come up? Would you please stand?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Father God, we just praise you and thank you for this beautiful place we get to live and call home. And we just praise you for all the people that work here and make this whole thing happen, Father. A lot of moving parts. And we just pray for guidance and wisdom going forward for the new year and coming years for the benefit of all of our members. And we just pray for protection, provision for everyone and all the members here and their families. And just thank you for this day. And I just pray for rain, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Scott. If you'll remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like at this time to introduce the board of directors. We'll start right here. Scott Miller, Dave Powers, our secretary, John Stern, who is vice president this last year, Bud Bucich, Nathan Thomas, Les Bailey, and Lynn Stokes. And please thank them for their hard work and dedication they've all shown this last year. It has not been an easy year for anybody. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Tom.
Has everybody found the coffee and the sweet rolls and all the good stuff? All right. Before we move forward and identify all the department heads, we need to approve the minutes from the last member meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look at them, or if you care to look at them? Can we get a motion to approve the minutes from the 2020 annual meeting? We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Minutes passed. Minutes approved, excuse me. We are very fortunate at Alto Lakes Golf and Country Club to have a very accomplished group of people that are your department heads and the supervisors, along with the people who actually get out there every day and get this work done and take care of y'all. First of all, I want to introduce you to a young man that is, I think, has the ability to be the general manager of this club. Craig Maldonado. Craig does a heck of a job and he makes my life so much easier. We just had an audit done, and the auditing company went to great lengths to try to find something that needed to be changed. And after weeks of digging, they came back and said, we couldn't find anything. Your books are clean as a whistle. Miss Gina, are you here, Miss Gina? Well, give her a round of applause. We have an accomplished, very accomplished controller, and we are blessed to have her. Don Bryant, Director of Golf. Everybody knows Don. This will be Don's last annual meeting. So Don has put in 20 years of service to this club, in a professional manner, you always want to say to yourself, I've left it better than I found it. And Don, you have left it way better than you found it. So give Don a big round. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, thank you. We're going to have a little appreciation soiree on Labor Day weekend to show your appreciation and pat Don on the back. And you know, it's always a good reason to have a party. You know, this club kind of likes to party, so we're gonna have a little soiree for Don. The gentleman that is the heir apparent to Don's position is a young man named John Rogers. Everybody know John? John, raise your hand. I think everybody knows John. About a year ago, in discussions with Don, it became apparent that Don was ready to enjoy the rest of his years and enjoy his beautiful wife. And so Don was included in the process when we went out and hired John. And John has been a good fit, and we expect big things from John in the future. So thank you, Mr. Rogers. The key to a golf club is having good golf courses. Now, I know we're suffering a little bit at Outlaw, more than a little bit over at Outlaw. It's dry. It's kind of a phenomenon that happens every June. I think it's happened every June since that club has been built. But Glendenny is probably the most accomplished golf superintendent that I've ever been associated with. And I ran a club where the gentleman that gets the courses ready for the PGA tournament was the golf course superintendent when I was there. Glendenny is better than he was. So everybody give Glenn a big round of applause. The reason your golf courses are in the shape they are is because of that young man over there. Hopefully he will work another 50 years. Maybe? Maybe. All right. Executive Chef Randy Narveson. Randy, everybody knows Randy. Last night he put on a pretty good, I'd say a great show last night. Does every day he's here. Randy is probably, I don't allow myself to become true friends with the staff, because I have to manage him. I consider Randy a friend. All right. Miss Teresa Gibson. Teresa, everybody knows Teresa. That's another person that I don't know. We have a young lady that we're grooming for when the inevitability that Teresa decides that she wants to retire, which I don't think we're going to let her, but she is irreplaceable. She is a treasure. She puts you guys before she puts herself. So thank you, Teresa. Kevin Yeager. Everybody knows Kevin. Kevin is a young and up and coming. He's the food and beverage director here. We have a good situation with Kevin. Kevin is a sharp guy. He wants to learn. He's got he wants to be here. He's not sentenced to be here. And so we expect big things from Kevin in the future. Frank Gonzalez. Where's Frank? Frank's probably working somewhere, taking care of a problem. But Frank was the Outlaw manager for several years. We brought him over here, and he's doing a great job. He's the clubhouse manager, which means that he focuses on the clubhouse. So just give Frank a hand. I know he's working around here somewhere. There's a great, kind of an imposing young man that you see in a suit, all dressed up, walking around. His name's Daniel Ferrara. I didn't even know Daniel's last name. I just call him Big Daniel. Daniel is the bar manager. Daniel's another young and up-and-coming guy. We were lucky to have him He does a great job. You see those tray that goes out and there's smoke and there's a glass dome and there's something smoking underneath there. He was the start of that. He brings a lot of innovation, a lot of good ideas, and we're lucky to have Daniel. All right, Mariah French. Mariah is the front of the house manager over at Outlaw. She's doing a great job. We're trying to make Outlaw not being referred to as the stepchild. We've done a lot of improvements over there. It's only going to get better. Javi Marufo is the the chef over at Outlaw. Javi's doing a great job. The key to a successful operation is a very accomplished human resources director. That is more important almost these days than it's ever been. Paula, where's Paula? Not here. Paula works so hard all week long, we gotta let her sleep in on Saturday morning. So Paula does a great job. Eddie Candelaria, where's Eddie? Everybody knows Eddie. I've never seen Eddie with his hat off. Dadgummit. What a good looking guy. Eddie does a great job here, and I don't know what we'd do without Eddie. That day will come too. We've got a lot of people that are nearing retirement age, and they're going to be hard to replace. Last but not least, Miss Maggie Fitz. Maggie, everybody knows Maggie. Maggie handles all the membership issues, the orientations, the onboarding, the endless hours of paperwork to get everybody's information in. And she is the ACC administrator. She also takes minutes for how many committees? 3 committees, plus the board. And so, we have a young lady that we pay one salary to that does 5 jobs. And so she's irreplaceable. And Maggie, thank you for all the hard work you do. Every year we recognize employees that have reached milestones. This year we have 2 people who have hit the 5-year employment. And that is Miss Priscilla. Can you say that? Again, I know everybody by the first name, but how? Tello? Teo. Miss Priscilla. Give her a hand. 5-year employee. And then down in the Outlaw kitchen, we have Serena. And Serena here. There's Miss Serena. These last names. Gudgel. Beasley. Serena is a great employee, and we're blessed to have her. All right. We have 10-year employees. Liliana Pignon. Is Liliana here? There's Liliana. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. These are the people that maybe you don't see every day. These are the people that are getting this stuff done. All these people, Eddie, every people see Eddie. But I don't know if people see Liliana. Liliana's a great employee, does a great job. Mr. Eddie Candelaria, 10 years. Wow. Eddie must have been 15 when he started here. All right. And we have a 20-year employee, Miss Elizabeth Schleck, Alto Golf Shop. Everybody knows Elizabeth, play golf. Is Elizabeth here? She's probably working. She's there. Oh, she's working. See, these guys are here so she has to work. So, when you see Elizabeth say 20 years, great job. Every year, the staff, quarterly, we have an employee of the quarter. And then at the end of the year, we decide an employee of the year. This year's employee of the year is Luis Jimenez. Luis, come forward. Luis, he cooks over at Outlaw. He preps at Outlaw. He washes dishes over here. If I asked him to go out and mow the greens in the morning, he'd be the first one out there. Pete, I know. Thank you. Give him a big hand. He's a great employee. All right. Opening statement for the annual meeting by Ms. Paula. Oh, she did it. She already did it.
I think it's time to get on with our commission reports and meetings. First up is Jim Solomon with the Scholarship Commission.
Thank you, Tony. You know, last year they asked me to be on the scholarship committee, and I said, certainly, that sounds like a great thing. And then before we had any meetings, they informed me that I was going to be the chairman of it. So my wife says, cannot you say no sometimes? So anyway, I'll give you a real quick update on our scholarship program here at Alto, which is really a great program. I've been involved with several of these programs back in Texas, and this is one of the greatest ones. We're so very fortunate as a committee, as the recipients of these scholarships, to have a membership that contributes so generously to these kids. And to me, it's a great honor for us to be part of their development and part of helping them move forward in their lives. So with that, I think we have our board, our commission, I should say, myself and one other thing I found out as soon as I got there, I've only been to one meeting, so I hope you don't ask a lot of questions. We have some great ladies on this board. They do an awful lot of work, and thank goodness that they're going to guide me so I won't screw things up too bad. But Tana and Jill Duncan, Leslie, Jaylyn, Bud is our liaisons with our board, our main board, and then Paula is employee liaisons, and also Paula's also got where she helps these young people as they do the interviews with us to go through that process, which is a very important skill, I think, for young folks. And then, of course, our leader, Tom, is on our board as well. The history of our support in this scholarship here for Alto, you can see over the years, our membership has contributed a tremendous amount of money to help these young people take a step forward in their careers and their lives. And this year, I'm hoping won't be any different. In fact, I'm sure it won't be any different. The scholarships we give, or that you guys give, are predicated on the GPAs, which has to be a 2.5 or above. They all have to carry at least 12 hours while they're in school, or if they're in the intern process. And they work at least to qualify 300 hours here at our club. And none of them's had much trouble doing that. So we're very lucky. They also go through an interview process, so we get to know them better and better each year. This year, we're anticipating a need for at least $60,000 to pay these kids. Or I shouldn't say to pay these kids, but to award to these kids these scholarships. And we certainly are thankful that we've got a membership that we have today. Lastly, I guess, the next slide, Eric. And lastly, our primary source of income or giving to give these scholarships out to these young people is our annual scholarship party, which is going to be on July 24th, 6 to 10. I think everybody's probably been here. If you haven't, it's a great time. It's a great cause. You can see in the slide it's going to be $20 or $35 per person. The club helps us a lot by keeping the expenses down to a minimum, so that most of this money can go to these young people. The party is going to include heavy hors d'oeuvres, dancing, and silent auction, wine pull, and we're certainly ask that everybody that gets the opportunity or wants to come to that party. You'll get an opportunity to meet these young people. They'll tell you a little bit about what their future, what their dreams are, what they want to do. Now, if you can't come for some reason, we certainly would encourage you to give some kind of contribution, if you like, to the same cause. So once again, guys, I want to thank all you guys. And so many of our membership are playing golf and so forth, but we've done this every year, as you can see on the previous slide, for your participation in this scholarship program. It's expensive as the devil to go to school nowadays, and it's a great opportunity for us to be part of their lives and invest in their future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Our next order is finance, and our favorite financial person that will let you know how we've done this last year, Mr. Greg Obregon.
Tony, I'm going to say something. I wanted to butt in and introduce my committee because they've worked really hard this past year. And so I wanted to call them out by name. I know a lot of them are not here. But Patty Bowden has been the secretary, and she's getting off the committee. She said she has too many other commitments, but I want to really thank her. Curtis Beal and Zane Bergman is here. Bruce Ellis has been on the committee for a year. Pat Martin, Spencer McClure, and Greg. David Winans, he's been on there since the beginning of time, I think, as has Greg. And then we have our managers. Gina Keith is a wonderful, wonderful comptroller. Without her, I don't think we could do it. Craig Maldonado sits on every meeting. And then we have Nathan Thomas as our board liaison, and he's been really good, very much participating. And then, of course, Tom Blumendahl. And I also wanted to mention again what Tom said about our audit. We sat in on an audit meeting with Richard Miller and Lauren Aguilar last week. And they're with the El Paso firm of Lauterbach Borshaw. And he said that our audit was all in good order, no adjustments, and they issued an unmodified opinion. And we're very proud of that. So now I will turn it back over to Mr. Gregorio. He likes to tell us this.
Well, good morning, fellow members. It's been quite a year. I think we're very happy to be here in Ruidoso. I do want to start by thanking the board and our president and the administration. I think with their guidance, we went through financially a very good year. Not very good year, but we went through a year. As Susan said, we had a clean audit. And the other thing that I like to always mention is that the commission always asks questions to management about anything that comes to our mind. All these questions were always answered, so you, the membership, feel that we are, in fact, looking at the numbers and that we feel that the numbers are correct. All the questions were answered. I'm going to start with our balance sheet. As you see, our cash went down. Our cash went down from 2019. The other current assets went up a bit. But I do want to point out that the property and the equipment have gone up. The long-term liability, which is that deal we did with the water company, is slowing down and coming down. And our member equity increased significantly. Want to highlight again the cash, the debt, the member equity, the cash reduction of $378,000 and $583,000 from 2 years. Of the $378,000, we spent $250,000 in buying a house to rent out to the H-2Bs, and it's a house that goes into the rental pool the rest of the year. I forget how many houses we have. We have 4, and it's a very, very interesting business line that we now have, and I congratulate Tom for it. This is our P&L, which is difficult to see. And if you go to the next page, please. And it shows slight increase in our member golf revenue, obviously down. Transfer fees were remarkably higher. As you see, this is gradual ups, and then we get this almost $200,000 increase. Whether this continues or not, I will let that be answered by the real estate folks in the room. Hopefully it will, but and our operational revenue, which is all other, went down obviously because we didn't have the sales. Our operational expenses remain basically the same, and our operational income before depreciation was a loss of $198,000. Now, this $198,000 on the next page, I will show you it's not that bad. If below the line, and if you go back to the P&L statement, please, one more. Right here in the little, and right here, you have 3 items and 1 minus right here. Go back to them. One more. So you hit the 98 and you get the interest income, the gain on the sale of assets, the upgrades, and the interest expense. And so you add these to reduce the number. So we had a loss, according to the audited, of $39,000, and I consider that for a COVID year, this was an excellent result. Thank you, Tom. I call this Gregorio's P&L, which what I have tried through the years to do is incorporate in one sheet all our income and all our expenses. Like, the most important, the capital assessment. We don't include that in the P&L because we like to cheat the city out of the gross receipts tax, and so that is not included. So we have member contribution, which includes the capital assessment, and then the rest of them that are not above the line in the P&L, for a total income of $9,175,000, $400,000 less than that. The other thing that does not show up in the P&L is the capital expense, and it doesn't show up because capital expenses are capitalized and not expensed. But so you add all the income and all the expenses, and we have a loss of $227,000 versus the audited loss of 198 or 39 if you. So I like to do this format because it makes it easier for us non-CPAs to get more of a feeling, because it includes the capital assessment and because it includes the capital expense. As you see, this is the first time in 4 years that we've had a negative, but also this page kind of shows you what our capital expenses have been: 16, 13, 16, 19, 17. It looks like our capital expenses on a normal year, 2020, of $1.2 million kind of leaves us at an even. Okay, well that does it, and thank you all, and thank you the board and the members of the commission.
We're going to have some questions and answers at the end.
To the specific presenters?
If you want to, yes.
Can I do it now or should I wait till the end?
Why don't you wait till the end?
All right, thank you.
Okay, next, Architectural Control Commission, Davis Dalton.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning, members. I'm Davis Dalton, recent transplant from Michigan. Lived here full-time since the fall of 2018. I volunteered to become a member of the ACC. I thought it would be a good way to get to know people and kind of get involved, and lo and behold, they made me the chair. So, my members, Ron Duncan is invaluable, been on the committee for a long time, as our Susan Fredrickson has as well. Jeff Hasty, Bob McWilliams, Jesse Saw, Ken Wall, they're all very hard workers, attend all the meetings, and are going to be a great commission. Maggie Fizz, our administrator, is invaluable to us, and she works harder than any of us, I think. And Eddie's a great helper to keep us straight as to what's really going on out there in the community. Recent past commissioners who have had to recently leave, Nadine Estes, Sue Morris, and the great Elaine Wedgeworth, who is full of energy and is our detail person, was. Very. Okay. Our mission and underlying principle is to maintain the integrity and uniqueness of the ALGCC by adherence to the covenants and the rules, policies, and design guidelines of the ALGCC Board of Directors. That's our guiding principle. So what have we been doing? This is a year-over-year comparison, 2019-20 and 2020-21. And it's a little hard to read the categories, but you'll notice in the middle, the one that increased the most was decks and redecking. People are 3 times as many permits for that this year. The driveway and concrete one doubled. Almost all of them increased. There was a few decreases, like variance requests, and for the most part, we're doing great there. Total annual permits are pretty much along with the average. Actually, this year was quite a bit better than the year before. And of those total annual permits, the total new construction permits were 6 this year, which is about average. Also, we deal with covenant and policy enforcement. And this slide demonstrates what complaints come in the most. Dead trees is the most common complaint that we deal with. If you look at the ones that have to do with lot maintenance, like dead trees, tall grass, lot maintenance, that is 50% of what we deal with. The total number of complaints this year were 120 compared to 73 last year. So I don't know if we got more complainers or more people infracting the rules. Next slide. So if you have an exterior project, here's your short checklist. Need an application form, an application checklist, and an application handbook. If you're going to do anything that changes the footprint, you're definitely going to need a survey, and it has to be within the past 5 years. Any questions, call our administrator, Maggie. She'll straighten everything out for you. So if you have a project, but you're worried about a permit because you're going to have to pay a fee, these three require no fees, but they do require a permit. Repainting, restuccoing, resealing your driveway. You must get a permit, but there'll be no fee. So, what would you need a Village of Ruidoso permit for? On the inside, electrical work, plumbing. On the outside, a deck. Retaining walls that are greater than 4 feet high. And if you're putting in a driveway that requires a culvert, you must get a road commission permit. So let's talk about being fire smart just a little bit. This is a picture from the club aspect of the smoke cloud from the Three Rivers fire, which is about a month ago now, isn't it? So you might think, well, what is my property worth now? And what's it going to be worth if all the surrounding houses and the golf course or the clubhouse are destroyed by fire? It'll definitely affect your property value. So we need to think about being fire smart. So what can you do? Remove standing dead trees on your property. Remove dead trees, branches, etc. from the ground. Needles and cones for at least a 30-foot radius around your house. And remove the ladder fuel or the lower branches from trees up to about 8 feet, and cut tall grass. That's things we all can do to reduce the risk of fire. Another problem we have in the community is monk thistle. It's pretty, but it's exotic. It's not native to this area. It grows and spreads aggressively in bare, warm soil, so if you do not have to remove ground cover, don't. It robs moisture from grasses, and one mature plant produces tens of thousands of seeds which are distributed by wind. And we do have wind here. I have seen entire fields surrounding Ruidoso completely overrun by thistle. So what can you do? Well, Alpoa provides free of charge to members 10% acetic acid, which is very effective when sprayed on the thistle. I see plants totally shriveled up and discolored in 24 to 48 hours after spraying with that. If you can and are inclined, you might consider spraying your neighbor's thistle if they don't, especially upwind neighbors, because they'll soon be your thistles. Plants can be removed by a small shovel or hoe if you don't have many to do, or if they're big. And try to get them early before they form the seed heads. If they have the seed head, you probably should cut it off and put it in a bag and put it in your household waste. And one other issue. I think this is the final issue I'll talk about today, and that's roadside trash. It is a problem here. It's a problem in New Mexico. I think I can tell when I cross the border into New Mexico because the roadsides are trashy. So, let me just remind you not to toss trash from your vehicle. Don't assume paper items that are tossed in the bed of a pickup are going to stay there. Remind contractors that we know there's a trash problem, and we believe their subs and workers may be major contributors. I have kind of adopted Deer Park Drive, and I pick up trash along there probably 2 or 3 times a week. And I do notice that near construction areas, that's where I find it most of the time. And the construction is done, and the trash problem goes away. And please volunteer for Alpoa's trash pickup days. This is a great way to get involved. One last thing, there is a lot of dog waste along the roadsides, so please, if you have a pet, pick up after them. And that's all I have to say. Thank you all very much.
Next is Golf and Greens Advisory Commission, Carolyn Henry.
Thank you, Tony. I'd like to recommend, or not recommend, but introduce to you our Golf and Greens Commission. And if you're here, raise your hand or stand up, please. George Holmes, Bill Doyle, Bruce Ellis, Bill Lucy, Joe McCubbin, Chip Ravenscroft, Jackie Gopel, who serves as the ALGA representative, Diana Gibson, who is the AL9GA representative, and Bruce Ripko, the AMGA representative. Along with these who've been appointed by the board, we have Glenn Denny, who is Director of Grounds Operations, Don Bryant, Director of Golf, Lynn Stokes, who has served as our board liaison this year, and Tom Blumenthal. The mission of the Golf and Greens Advisory Committee is really just to review and advise the board of any aspect that has to do with the golf course and golf operations. We talk about the maintenance that's going on, maintenance that's needed, repair or management of the golf course. We recommend projects for the golf courses, review the tournament schedules, and anything to do with golf cart regulation and rules enforcement of those. Some of the things that we review in addition are the budgets, the annual capital budget, as well as the operational budget, tournament schedules for all of the golf associations. We look at and consider and recommend some outside tournaments. Sometimes regulating golf carts that shouldn't be in the native grass and enforcing those rules, that comes under our review as well. We're always visiting with Glenn about the speed of the greens, the height of the rough, the height of the fairways, and the native areas. Trees and planting, trimming, that comes under our purview as well. The elk, deer, and horse management is a big problem. Trying to define or find something that will deter those elk in the winter has been really difficult. Glenn has come up with a number of things that have helped. We work with the First Tee group in planning their event each year for the children. And then again, we're overseeing the personal golf cart operations. This year, we were able to complete the Better Billy Bunker project at Outlaw that was started the previous year. We're thankful to the board that we were able to have those funds to do that. Both courses have been re-rated by Sun Country Golf Association, and we can thank Bill Doyle for that. I've tried for about 5 years to get it done. He got on their board, he's vice president, and in about a year, we were able to get those courses re-rated. We established a new forward tee that we're calling the Silver Tee. It's on a temporary basis. You'll see mowed areas on the golf course. You'll see some of those tees on present teeing areas. The USGA is recommending that we provide tees for all skills of play, and we had been asked if we could have a more forward tee to create a shorter golf course. So that would be for maybe a beginner golfer who doesn't hit it as far at that point, or a junior golfer, or perhaps like some of us who are aging, we don't hit it as far, period. We still want to enjoy the game, so you make it more enjoyable when you can compete with your peers. We're proposing a project this year to the board. We haven't yet, so they're hearing about it now. To level and replant all teeing areas except number 5 at Alto, per the golf course architect's recommendation. If we find that we need silver tees, that they're indeed being used, we will address creating teeing areas for those. We're still continuing to work on and evaluate a renovation plan for the driving range. We have some issues there that we are trying to address to see how we can best provide a driving range or a warm-up area for our members here at Alto. One other thing we want to do this year, and we need all the golfers' help, and that is we'd like to re-handicap the holes for stroke allocation. And in order to do that, we need history. And history is provided by the way you post your score. If you post your score hole by hole, we can obtain that history to know how that particular hole is being played and how to handicap it. So I'm asking that all of you take a little bit longer to enter your scores hole by hole and not just your total score to help us get this done. Last thing I'd like to say, while we are an advisory commission, we propose new projects to the board, but we're always subject to what the board wants to do and how much funding we have in order to get those done. So I thank you for your time, and I guess we'll have questions later.
Next, tennis and pickleball. Stephen Morris.
Good morning, members and fellow board members, and ex-board members and future board members. This is the fun report. All that noise and stuff that you hear down there, most of our commission members are actually playing tennis and pickleball this morning, and the orthopedic surgeons are waiting for them to arrive after they finish playing. The first slide, we have 3 representatives from tennis and 3 from pickleball and a board liaison. As you can see the names. If they're here, if they'll stand, please, because they put in a lot of work. I am chair. Glenda Campbell is our secretary, and she's the tennis representative. Bill Lucy was pickleball president. Elaine Wedgeworth came from tennis and on their board. Cindy Stowe is the pickleball board. Molly Rogers was tennis. John Stern was our liaison to the thing. And our board, we can't tell you how much we appreciate the support that we've had from you guys. We have grown exponentially in the last 3 years. And as you can tell from all this stuff, we're getting complaints from noise, and that's wonderful. We love it. Next, please, Eric. In light of the growth of pickleball, we started probably about 15 years ago with 4 people on the original courts up here. And we have grown so much that they established a commission in 2017 because of the growth and the needs that were going on down there. Resurfacing, relocating, adding to, subtracting. We're working with Long Range to develop not only for tennis and pickleball, but for all the club members. The new pavilion down there is going to be gorgeous, and I think everybody's going to enjoy that. Again, we have a board liaison and 6 other members. We meet once a month. You're certainly welcome to do. I think it's on the deal. So the Alto commissioners, as you can see, we're kind of a laying down bunch. We have fun when we do. There's gorgeous mountains in the background. The commissioners aren't too bad either. Next, please. We did a lot of stuff. We had COVID last year, and it's really hard to play sports with a mask on. But in spite of that, we really had a lot of activities. We were very careful with our social distancing. We sanitized the balls, sanitized our hands. We were careful with it. The board was very good about supplying things that we needed down there in order to continue that. We did what we could during COVID. The biggest issue was there's not enough trees, so we needed a bathroom really badly. And we're working on that. The board was kind enough to help us with some fobs, and on the days that Outlaw is closed, we now have access to the Outlaw Clubhouse to get through that. One of the big ones that's coming up is if you have kids, grandkids, great-grandchildren, we have about 25 kids coming for our programs, and we're going to introduce them to tennis and pickleball, and I think golf is piggybacking on that in a few days later. It's called First Paddle, First Racket, which is kind of like First Tee with golf. USTA has now approved our tennis facility, and we have 2 gorgeous new courts down there, and we're working on kind of beautifying the area and doing some landscaping. We just had a triathlon. If you wondered what all the noise was down there last week, we really had a good time. We're going to auction some teams next year, should you want to buy one. Just a little advertisement there. Next, please, Eric. What we're trying to do, again, is First Paddle is coming up around July 5th and 6th. It's First Paddle and First Tennis. And if you have kids, you can still register them and get them in there. I think it's $40 for the day. We feed them a hot dog and enough Dr. Pepper to keep them up most of the night. We are working on getting some landscaping for the new pavilion. This is the one that was located here. We moved it down there. They have just put the new roof on. It's going to be gorgeous, and it's not just for tennis and pickleball, it's for all the membership. It's got a gorgeous view of the lake. You're going to be able to see that. And again, I want to thank the board for backing us for all the stuff that we were trying to do. Next, Eric. The tennis group is very active, and it's growing also. Again, they were down to 10 or 12 a few years ago. I think there are over 67 members now that's on their list. And as you can see the list of officers: Barney Adams, Belinda Campbell, Molly Rogers, Shelley Stern, Candy Adams, and Elaine Wedgeworth. And they all have various duties. Next, please. One of the biggest projects they do is the mixer. So when you join, let's talk free food here. Even if you don't play tennis, go out there and have free food. This was the Wimbledon mix, next year. And they sponsored Wimbledon, Interclub, US Open, and Christmas mixers during the year. Again, I show up for the food. Alpa has grown tremendously. I started with about 6 people on these courts, and the courts up here were so dead that the ball wouldn't even bounce. And the club has really supported us. We really have one of the nicest pickleball facilities in New Mexico. I mean, I say that from visiting most of them. There are 3.5 million pickleball players in the United States. We have gone from those 3 or 4 to over 170. So watch out, Mahjong players. Between pickleball and tennis, we have now outpaced you. ALPA president was Bill Lucy last year. Liz Orban was secretary. Doug Minier was treasurer. Gaylord Rich and Cindy Stowe were directors. Next, please. Activities. In spite of COVID last year, we sponsored our First Paddle. Right? It's coming up July 5th. So kids and grandkids, and we're tagging that in with the tennis crew. We had charity parties for the food bank, backpack food for kids. We sponsored beginner lessons on Mondays, usually during the summertime, and drills for intermediate players. And that's open to any membership. Bring your tennis shoes, and we will supply everything else. And we had a parade float, which was hysterical because we decorated a float, and we had some walkers, and we kind of paced the parade at our rate. Next, please. You can see the parades and the Google eyes and the people on the courts. We really have fun down there. It is open to the membership. If you show up at the business office, you can fill out an application. I think it's $20 for pickleball and $10 per person for tennis. It includes a lot of activities, and we'll keep you informed of what goes on. You can also get on 4 Ts, make reservations, and see what's happening. And then the last one. The only one thing that's missing are you guys. So please show up and support us. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next, long-range planning, Clay Harris.
Good morning, all. The Long Range Planning Commission is a resource for the board, the membership, general manager to look at capital projects. Members the past few years: Neil Goodman, Tana Lucy, Kai Brown, myself, Joe Brandhuber, Lane Wedgeworth, and Dave Powers, our board liaison. Unfortunately, we've lost a few of the long-term members, Neil, Kai, and Danny Vaughn, and we're looking forward to some fresh blood for the next few years. Next slide. Some of the projects we supported are underway. The patio expansion and roof that will increase outdoor dining capacity by what percentage, Tom? Outdoor dining? What did we increase outdoor seating capacity?
The actual increase is probably a couple hundred, but we're going to operate it at a day in and day out, 100 people.
All right, great. Another big improvement is a rainwater recovery system, which will save a substantial amount of money on our water bills. We also supported looking at the quiet dining and the sports bar. Next slide, please. And this has been discussed by a few previous presenters. Just to save some of the facility, we moved the patio cover from the pavilion to the outlaw area, and that'll be a great addition to the pickleball tennis complex. Next slide. And there'll be a detailed presentation on this, but long-range planning, maybe 18 months ago, started investigating the long-term pool needs and did some preliminary evaluation and turned it over to a board committee. And the details will be presented later. Next slide. These are some of the projects that we're looking at the rest of this year and next year. Looking at private cart barn on the club property, looking at expanding the lane between Alto holes 1 and 2, revamp the Alto driving range and evaluate a 2-tier design, investigate a mini warehouse to support logistics of moving merchandise between Alto and Outlaw Pro Shops, also looking at concepts to increase club revenue, no dues increase, and evaluate the need for and type of club survey. What we do is we get input from the general manager who attends almost all of our meetings, the board, and also the membership. So if there's anything that you would like long-range planning to have a look at, let us know. And if we don't have the resources, we go outside and look for folks in the club that have that expertise and look at those projects. And if a project looks viable, we then put together a proposal, submit it to the board for their review and approval. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Next, Construction Advisory Commission, Les Bailey.
Thank you, Tony. Before I start this, I want to tell y'all thank you. You've allowed me to serve you for 6 years, and today's my last day of doing that. But I tell you what, I really enjoyed it, and thank y'all for a lot of support. And if you hadn't heard me say it recently, I love this place. So we've had a rough year. Rough year in the sense that we've all been restricted in lots of ways. And what a great time to do projects. Restricted use gives us access to lots of areas, and so with the board support, long-range planning support, administration support, member support, a lot of different things happen in a year that you might otherwise think wouldn't. So first thing, talk about our patio cover. We took one down, moved it over to the sports court area, started construction of another one, much larger. As Tom said, so that we can comply with some regulatory issues, we're going to have a day in, day out occupancy of less than 100. Special events, that occupancy will change, but day in, day out, and that's a regulatory issue more than anything else. It has caused us a few delays, along with some material delivery issues get by like this till about July 4th, and then we're going to shut it down for 10 or 12 days and see if we can't button it up and get done with it, so that we have it for use for the rest of the year. So the patio cover's underway. Part of that was relocating the old patio cover to the sports court area. You see a lot of new concrete behind us out here now. There were several reasons for doing that. One being that, if you recall, we usually have food tents and things there that required a lot of structure underneath them on the slopes behind us. And so the payback on this concrete work is actually relatively a few years if and when we get back to that type of food service. So it gives us a good surface, but it also pays for itself over time. Go to the next slide, please. It was also time, maybe that's the wrong word, but good opportunity to relocate and construct and open a bar area that flows out onto the patio, serves the second dining room, creates a more formal dining area in the old bar. So if you haven't had a chance to enjoy the new bar, please do. It seems to be quite active in there on most evenings. Another thing we've done is actually right behind me is, I guess Eddie's crew kind of did this. If you haven't noticed, the stage area is new. It's been reconstructed, refurbished, works much better. It's got a little room behind it now for our entertainers. So very, very nice addition, very good work that Mr. Kenleary oversaw. Something you might not have noticed, although I hope you have, the outbuildings on our golf courses have all received a little bit of a facelift. We did some sanding, we did some refinishing. We still need to address the restroom buildings, but some of those that had a lot of woodwork on them have been refurbished to a certain extent and look, in my opinion, much better. If you haven't noticed them, wish you would take a look at them. Any other slides? I think that's probably it. Again, thank you for allowing me to be of service to you. And again, I love this place. Hope y'all do.
Next is Alto Lakes Property Owners Association, Deidre Merkel.
Thank you, Tony. Well, good morning. I'm Deidre Merkel, and I'm your Alpoa president this year. And let's take a look at this first slide. I want you to know who's on our board. They've been working really hard this year. Our Vice President Jim Edwards, Secretary Susan Poole, Treasurer Diana Gibson, Dale Gibson, Roy Webb, Gracie Rungans, John Stern, Shelley Stern, Barbara Edwards, Barbara O'Leary, Marcy Oglesby, Elaine Wedgeworth, and Mike Wedgeworth. I think they need a round of applause. You know, they take time out not only to come to the monthly board meetings, but they are the first to volunteer to help with the projects that we do to improve life here at Alto Lakes. So that's a good thing. Now let's talk briefly about Alpoa. Originally, that stood for Alto Lakes Property Owners Association. We are definitely an association made up of property owners, but we are not a POA as many people think of it. We do not have enforcement abilities. Those belong to Alto Lakes Golf and Country Club. So our name can be a little confusing to folks. But in an effort to update our branding, we wanted to keep the name Alpoa because many of us know Alpoa, we know that name. And so from now forward, you will see Alpoa followed by the words Alto Lakes, projects, outreach, and activities. We believe this is a perfect description and encourage you to continue to support us with your membership. Now let's briefly look at Alpoa's accomplishments, past, present, and future. Next slide. Okay, the projects that have been completed in the past 3 years, we did the entry sign at the corner of High Mesa and French Drive, purchased 4 defibrillators for Alto Clubhouse, contributed to the purchase and installation of the flagpole at Outlaw, presented a murder mystery dinner production in 2019, presented a Valentine's dinner show, and that was in 2020, right before everything shut back down. We donated $11,341.25 to ALGCC for construction of the slab at Outlaw Pavilion, and we donated $25,377.23 for the fishing dock at Outlaw Pond. So those are some things that we've been up to. Let's look at the next slide. Ongoing projects: host bingo nights semi-annually to support the Alto Employee Scholarship Program, provide the tanks of vinegar for control of thistles, maintain neighborhood signage such as emergency evacuation routes, sponsor a mile on Highway 48 at the entrance to Alto and hold trash pickup days semi-annually, host informative meetings for Alto members, keep Alpoa members informed through Alpoa website, and this is a new website, and it's www.alpoa.info. Donate to local charities, support Alto employees through donations to their Employee Appreciation Fund, donate funds to Alto projects as the opportunities arise. Next slide. Future plans. Co-sponsored this year's the 2021 July 4th, except it's July 3rd, rally around the flag event, parade and patriotic ceremony, host our annual Alpoa meeting, host 2021 Murder Mystery Dinner Theater event, and that will be September 14th and September 15th, host bingo events twice yearly, highway cleanup twice yearly, Alto neighborhood cleanup once yearly, sponsor various classes, and we've started actually helping with a class. It's the new class Silver Warriors, and one of our members, Gary Bills, is volunteering his time to teach Silver Warriors, and it's some self-defense and a lot of conditioning for people our age to develop more balance and better balance and stability. So we'd love for any of you to come to that. As we move forward, we want you to know how much you're needed, as a member of Alpoa, and your $25 a year per property has given us ways to further enhance life here at Alto Lakes. This $25 is a separate payment to Alpoa. It can't be just deducted or can't be added to your Alto Lakes bill. It's separate, so it comes to us. And we have I've already told you about the website. So if you have not joined, or if you've got $25 today in your pocket that you're just ready to give me, I'll take it and I'll sign you up. Alpoa is also honored to take any donation that you may want to give. So please encourage your friends and neighbors to join us. And I just wanted you to know finally that I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share Alpoa with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Outlaw Partners, Trey Hughes.
Good morning. Trey Hughes, the owner of the Outlaw Development. We purchased the property at the end of 2019. We sold 13 lots in 2020. In 2021, so far, we've already sold 12 lots, and we've finished the Section D, which is on the south side of the golf course. It's a gated entrance, the continuation of Walter Hagen Drive, and it's got 41 premium lots there. And so far, we've already sold 4 of those this year. Currently, we have 17 projects new homes being constructed in the Outlaw. We're roads, cleaning up trees, just upgrading the properties, working on cleanup. And we do want to thank the Alto Board for working with us and kind of help guiding us in the right direction, and we look forward to what the future brings the rest of the year.
Thank you, Craig. Next is a ad hoc water projects committee that has been started this year. Lynn Stokes.
Thank you, Tony. My name is Lynn Stokes. I'm the board member on the Water Ad Hoc Committee. The committee consists of Craig Obregon, Roy Reynolds, David Lindsay, and myself. We've had, I think, one formal meeting, but we've been out working quite a bit on our water. Our focus has been the water at Outlaw. I just want to thank Trey Hughes, and everybody needs to know that those guys are working with us hand in glove to try to solve this water problem. I think there's been a lot of concern over the Outlaw situation, and we're working on it. And I think what's happened, I've been here most of my life, and since the 50s, it's been dry. The last 3 years have been severely dry. And what's happened is the water table has dropped. And when the water table drops, your pump production drops, your well production drops. And that's the position we're in now. We don't have the pumping capacity, the production capacity that we need for these hot June days. Glenn gave me the numbers the other day, and if optimum production to keep the Outlaw, there's 58 acres there that we're irrigating, and 385,000 gallons a day is what we need. And right now, today, we can produce constantly 250,000. So what our goal has been this year was to go through these wells that we have and see what we can do to improve production out of them. We have an old well down Deer Park Valley, and that well we plan on deepening this fall. We hope that will give us 75 gallons a minute more and increase the production there to about 150 gallons a minute, which will be a big help. Well number 10, down on the east end of it, same thing. The water table's dropped. The pump that we have in there won't pump the head required. It's 4,000 feet of line and 400 feet of elevation change. So we're putting a high pressure pump in there. We're going to lower down the hole 160 feet, and I think that's going to be able to give us, I hope, 150 gallons a minute constantly there. With those two additions, we will be able to meet that demand. The other thing we're looking at is doing some storage. A pond, probably off the property, not a water feature for the golf course, but something that we could fill during the winter months and then have in reserve for these May and June days. So we're looking at it. We're spending the money. We've got the pump and everything for the number 10 well. I would like to get started on repair and deepen as soon as we can on the other well. And then we pray for rain. I was looking through a bunch of stuff from my grandfather. My grandfather came over to Carrizosa in 1925 and started ranching. And it was dry. It was dry in the 20s. It was dry in the 30s. And then in the 40s, it started raining and the grass was up to their stirrups. And then the 50s hit. It was a drought again. And it stayed dry until the 80s. In the 80s, we had a wet decade. I'm hoping that cycle continues, because if it does, we're going to start a wet decade. And that would be better for us than anything. So I thank you for your time. questions anybody has, they can catch me with them later or ask them at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Next, Nathan for our aquatic fitness and pool.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning to everybody that came out in attendance for this. And I heard several of you all attended the party last night, and there was a little indulgence, so I'm glad to hear that. I myself partook in another event, which led to a decision of indulging myself, so I'm operating a good solid 32% this morning, so I'm going to be making this pretty quick. Why do we need a pool at Alto? Well, Trey Hughes called us and said he needed to work on his tan, so we wanted to oblige him. But you all have seen the renderings around the club. There was a very detailed PowerPoint presentation that was done for the Alpoa meeting, which is still on a lot of the websites, so I encourage you guys to look at that if you want to get a little more specifics. This is going to be a quick summarization of truly what is the board looking at, and it's just the rehabilitating of our assets from the pool to golf course to clubhouse to bars to whatever it is. We're always wanting to continue to enhance all the assets of the club, and I think the real balance there is, fiscal responsibility, and I think that that's a lot of the information that we've talked about here in this, not this presentation, but throughout the club, the pamphlets that you have, the idea of the direction of the current board of how are we going to pay for this, why is it going to be a benefit, so on and so forth. And I think there's been a lot of chatter too about, phases of this thing. Why can't we have multiple phases? Do we need to do a fitness center and a pool center all in one fell swoop? I think it just really comes down to cost. Anything of this magnitude, when you start to design it, build, buy materials, if you spread it out in phases, it's going to cost a lot more. And we could go into great detail of that, but I think the idea here is we're putting this out in one fell swoop in an effort to maximize our allocation of funds, and get the project done in the way that it needs to represent Alto Country Club. So we've had several people that have attended the committee meetings for the pool. Great feedback, and the thing about it is this is a membership vote. Vote yes or no. We want you to participate, bottom line, and we enjoy most of your feedback. So it has been very insightful on how we can better propose this, how we can better design things, how we can overall communicate better to you as members. And I feel like that's been the premise of this board, is to give you guys full disclosure of what we're talking about. Why do we need to do this or don't do this, but making sure you as a membership are informed of all the facts. Everything's out there for you to make that decision. Obviously, it's the newly elected board will make that decision on the vote, but I think we're proposing a July or June vote, June for July or something like that. So that's kind of the targeting to the membership right now. So again, we'll be fielding some questions at the end of the afternoon or morning. I say morning, it better be morning. So you guys give us your feedback, come out and vote. I think that's a key message that we just want to ask all of you in here, and thank you guys for attending this morning.
Thank you, Nathan. You can see what it takes to run this club by the different committees that have come up. All the people, all the hours of work that they have put into it. You make this club run smoothly, and you've done a beautiful job. Thank all of you. Next, Tom, for our general manager's report.
All right, are we ready for a little seventh inning stretch here? I think this is probably an hour and a half for could be starting to get painful. So I'm going to go through this really quick. A lot of it in my report is redundant of reports that we've already had. But basically, last year I started a concept of a vision forward. And when I went back and looked at what my vision for that year was, and then looked at what got accomplished, it was really, I was very pleased and very happy that in membership we had taken in a whole bunch of memberships that had been dormant, cleaned them up. We've done all that. All that's been accomplished. We've sold probably half of the properties that we took in. I had yesterday we had people in looking at 2 lots. I think we have 3 right now, 3 left to sell. And so they're back in production. They're making money. People are paying dues. So a vision forward accomplished. We talked about the Alto Clubhouse, changing the layout of the how we use those properties. Mostly accomplished. The appearance of the clubhouse in the front still is on the radar to get freshened, and the refigure of the snack bar kind of got taken, or the hallway kind of got handled by the state, not being able to have that out there. So now we have it repurposed over here, and there's an attendant, and we're going to do that until a time where we can do something different. The Alto pool, we've talked about that at length, and I'm sure we'll have questions at the end. But basically, that has been initiated, and it'll be up for a vote in July. The patio. It's not quite done, but it would have been done if we wouldn't have ran into a few snags as far as legalities. So, again, the pool is up for vote. The Alto Clubhouse, the walk-in cooler, done. We enclosed the patio. Additional restroom capacity, all been done. The Forward project, small walk-in cooler for the bar, done. Dishwashing machine for the kitchen, done. Develop the lounge area in front of the bar, that will happen in January this year. I've got an architectural, Stan and Cape and his wife, Amy, we're gonna get that bar, hopefully, to rival the quality of the bar that we just built for y'all in the second dining room. The golf course, again, we're still debating the best route to go for the driving range. Long range planning, golf and greens are now involved, and we'll get that right. The Alto golf course, Billy Bunker, first half is done, second half is done. The planned improvements have all taken place. Now, let's talk about the future. The vision forward for 2021 and 2022 are pretty simple. We've talked about the community Firewise compliance. That to me is my top priority for getting the parameters and the guidelines. I'm working with the DNR, or the forestry lady, Miss Levine and Capitan. There are community grants that are available. Community grant would be very much simpler than going to grants for individual property owners. If we can secure a grant that will provide, there's state grants, there's local grants, there's federal grants. If we can get one of those grants, it makes it a lot more simplistic as far as getting the clearing done, how it gets paid for, the insurance windfall that you get if your property is Firewise certified. So there's a bunch of slides in here having to do with Firewise. You can go to the Firewise website, but basically it is every day up here as we dodge a bullet. There is a lot of debris and a lot of dead material and dead trees. You get down by Lakeshore Drive and that area. We had a scare 2 weeks ago over here at the tubing area. That could have jumped the highway. That could have been a disaster. So this is something that I think is a very high priority. Getting a community Firewise is the first step. Then you got to develop mechanisms to keep it that way. And so I'm working on that full time. And first stage is to develop the criteria based on how our size of our lots. And but that's my top focus for next year is get us Firewise. The other thing that came from what happened with that fire down by the Shell station down there was our front entrance got blocked off. Panic. People didn't know what to do. I called the community, the county emergency manager, and was not very pleasant with him. And I called him an hour later and apologized. But how can we have a community that was built in 67, built in 67, we don't have a comprehensive evacuation plan depending on where the fire is. So we're working on that. We've got maps. Now we're gonna put together orientation packages and things online and attachments to eBlast where you can get this information. You can take that map and put it on your refrigerator, find your location, and then direct yourself to evacuation routes that'll take you out of here depending on where the fire is. Also, a lot of times this stuff doesn't happen in the middle of the afternoon when the sun is out. Smoke, panic. To me, that's something that we needed to get done, and I'm working on it. But hopefully when I'm up here next year, hopefully I'll be up here next year, it'll be accomplished. Last but not least is, there's a lot of talk about and Lynn addressed it, the water over at Outlaw. Glenn Denny, I don't think Glenn's in here anymore. Glenn, why don't you come up here for a minute? Me and Glenn talk about this. We talked about it this morning. We talked about it yesterday. We talk about it every day. How are we going to fix this? How come it's never really been addressed? This is nothing new. Every June, it's dry. And every June, everybody jumps up and says, we're losing the golf course. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to fix it? Let's spend $1 million and drill a well. Will that fix that, Glenn?
Unfortunately, $1 million well will not fix it. The only thing that will fix it is storage capacity. We need the May, June, as it's already been addressed, of how much water that golf course needs. There's no turf reduction that can be done on that golf course. It's only 50 acres right now. You guys would string me up if I cut another 20 out of that, right? Really wouldn't be playable. So we have a great plan on how to, we will renovate that thing. It's going to be back in great shape, I promise you. We're going to reseed the entire thing with a better bluegrass that doesn't require near the water. If I can get a thicker stand, everybody knows the soil down there is absolutely horrible. If anybody wants to come help me dig up a sprinkler head someday, I'll prove that to you. But we manage the water very efficiently. Matt Urban, who runs Outlaw for me, he has kept those greens and tees in outstanding condition. If we'd have had just a little more water, we could have had the middle of the fairways in great condition. That's why we had to go cart path only. Obviously, the desiccation from cart traffic is what is going to get us right now. But if y'all be patient with us, we have a good plan going forward. We get a little bit more water on that thing. We'll use it as efficient as we can. And hopefully, we can get through these times a little bit easier.
Give Glenn Denny a hand. Thanks, Glenn. There's a few things that have kind of popped up over the last few days that I kind of want to mention. The club is very aware of a batch plant that's coming in on our back door. The club is doing its due diligence to investigate it, get all the information. There's a lot of emotion out there, very understandably. But we are aware of it, we are doing our due diligence, and we will react based on what the facts of the deal is. And, on paper, and I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. It doesn't look like something that this community needs.
What is this?
Batch plant, concrete batch plant over off of 220 and 48. It doesn't appear to be something that, if I lived in that neighborhood, that I would support. But we're going to do our due diligence and get all the facts and make sure that we know what we're getting and the ramifications for what it will be. Now, that's not on our property, but it's close to our property, and it has to be something that we're concerned with. Member party. Last night we had the first half of our member party. I think, how many, raise your hand if you were here last night. Wow. Raise your hand if you had a good time. Okay. Now, it wasn't what we've done in the past. In the past, we put out an extravaganza that would be a $250 buffet anywhere outside of Las Vegas. And the club subsidized it, and it was a good time. Well, with COVID, I can't put that out there. Big open buffets like that are still not really, well, they're not acceptable. The cost of what we put out there is times 3 or 4 what it was pre-pandemic. So we cooked some steaks, we had some nice halibut. I didn't give any free drinks away. And I think that's where I got more feedback, was the unavailability of complimentary alcohol, which I listened. I have a plan for next year, and there will be some complimentary alcohol involved next year, I assure you. So please be patient with us as this transition. This is like it's almost normal again, but not quite. A lot of the restrictions in the state of New Mexico will go into effect the 1st of July. A lot of them will be repealed. Most of those are having to do with occupancy, not really big food buffets. Now, hopefully as the year passes, you say, well, how can you do any buffet if you can't do something that's enormous? Well, controlled buffets with shaking dishes and small exposed areas are still pushing the law. But we're providing it because we can't take care of you with the volume of business that we have unless we do that. And I've contacted the state. In the state, I have an email that says if a health department person comes in here and starts writing me up to just show them that, and they'll go home. Unless I'm really fracturing the protocol. So, another thing that came up, a survey has been formulated. It is ready to be sent out. We felt it was something that would be probably better after we do, you all tell us what we want to do with the pool. As soon as that vote's done, the survey will go out, and then we'll get a feel for what you see as projects in the future for us. Thank you for supporting me. The board gave me an extension on my contract, which was, it gives a guy like me a little peace of mind. I know I'm only as good as my last decision, and I understand that, and hopefully though we'll have a longer run together. So anyway, thanks for listening, thanks for your time. One last thing. The board of directors, in the last full meeting, decided that we were going to recognize a member of the board that was going off for some of his accomplishments, in particular one special thing. And let me read this to you. The Alto Lakes Golf and Country Club recognizes Les Bailey, president of the Alto Lakes Golf and Country Club Board of Directors 2017 to 2020. The covered back patio will be completed in July of 2021, and there'll be a plaque out there on one of those pillars to recognize Les. Les's vision and leadership is responsible for creating this wonderful amenity that will be enjoyed by members and their guests for many generations. You have no idea the amount of time this man has put in on these projects of this club, and how much money the club has saved because of his diligence and his love for the club. Please, a round of applause and recognition for Mr. Les Bailey.
Thank y'all. I gotta say though, that first patio cover was the vision of my bride. It was her vision, it wasn't mine. I just did the work. So thank y'all, but God bless her.
Thank you. Okay, it's time to open this up for questions and hopefully answers. Mr. Duncan?
need a microphone. Just a quick idea. Having been on the board several years ago, it seems to me the board has always historically struggled with how to evaluate the transfer fee. It's been raised incrementally over the years, but almost arbitrarily, kind of recognized there's more value in the club.
So I had a thought, and it seems to me to be a fair and reasonable way to look at transfer fees. And I wanted to offer the question initially just to see if folks thought it was a good idea. So here it is. You take member equity, which right now is $24 million. You divide that by the number of members in the club. Right now, you're going to come up with a number, $12,000. It seems to me that's what a new member coming into this club should pay in transfer fees. It's not an arbitrary number. It could be adjusted based on the member equity, and it seems like a fair and reasonable way for new members to get advantage of what all of us have been investing in for many, many years. It doesn't penalize all of us because we've been paying our dues. The new member comes in, all of these beautiful new assets that have been described to us today, that new member participates in the equity of the club. That's my question, and I offer that for consideration. Thank you.
Personally, I like your thought process. We did raise transfer fees this year, not up to the 12,000, but that does seem like an equitable figure. I think that's something for this new board or the next board to consider. Thank you. Ron, any other? Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Lawrence. My name is Lawrence Davis, and I'm really concerned about the water problem on Outlaw. And I know you need to lower the pumps, and you're going to get more water. But when you lower the pumps, you're just going to get to what you really need now. And you talk about a reservoir, where you're going to have water to put in the reservoir to fill it up. So to me, we need to drill another well out there. Anytime, I come out of the oil business, and a well can go down anytime. You can lose a pump, casing failure, tubing failure, so then you're really in trouble. So we have no backup. So to me, we need to have another well out of Outlaw.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I agree with you completely. I think if you figure the end game that I have in mind is to be able to have production that's about 30% over your maximum demand need. Then you tie that in with the storage. If you have a well go down, the issue we have is a new well's $1 million down here. These wells are so damn deep. And you get a production well, they're $1 million. So what the board did, the board set up, raised the transfer fees, and set up a special reserve fund. That fund ought to generate $250,000 a year. So what we're trying to do now is we're doing patchwork. We're doing this incrementally because we don't have the money in there right now to drill a new well. But I think my first deal is to get production out of the wells. Then if we can get some storage enough to carry us, if we do have a well go down now, build some money in that fund and then drill a new well. That's the plan. And I agree with you. And I'm not an expert in the water business. I'm just experienced in it. I've been doing it for about 25 years. And you've got to have that production. We just can't afford it right now.
I think you got a question. I think you need to afford it right now. I mean, we got, what, $5 million in the bank.
Well,
We got a crisis out there. We need to.
No, we don't have a crisis out there. We have June. And if the monsoons come, we don't have a crisis. What we want to try to do is get this thing better every year. And next year, hopefully, we'll sit there and we'll be able to meet the demands. And I understand you completely. We need another well. But that another well, I'd love to do it next year. I just think that's up to the board, how they want to spend the money and how we can spend it. Thank you very much.
Well, you better figure out how much it's gonna cost to reseed and redo all the fairways, because we're gonna lose them if we don't do something right about it.
No, that's kind of up to him there, I think, right now.
Right now, we are also working on storage, just drilling another well with immediate usage and no place to put the water when we pump it to keep it, it doesn't make any sense. And so we are looking at a total package. It will be addressed. It's just not addressed right at the moment, but it will be addressed in the future, and it is coming along.
Well, actually, like I said before, the fairway problem is the desiccation to the traffic. It will recover. I remember the first year I got here, or second year, that's the way Alto looked also. I'm not belittling the situation down there, but there is ways to improve it also. Now, would another well help? Yes, it would, but it also needs to help the development down there too. Right now they're pulling, I don't know how much water they're pulling out, but decided, I've got the number somewhere. 180,000 gallons, just to take care of the homeowners down there a week. So we have to balance it out. We're not going to lose the thing completely. I can promise you that, and I promise you I won't rest until I get the thing recovered. Unless we totally go dry. But we won't. A backup well is an outstanding idea, but it's not going to fix the problem right away. Nothing's going to fix the problem overnight until it starts raining, right? So, but we're on it and we're trying, and I think we're going to have multiple ideas, and I think there'll be studies until the right idea makes not only financial sense, but sense that drives the club forward in the future.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Thanks, Bob Cooley here. Just listening to the presentations today and Lawrence's comments and the water situation at Outlaw. It is a shared resource. It has to be shared with the golf course as well as with the residents out there. It seems to me that we've got competing requirements for funding. And right now we're hearing we need a new pool. We need all of this investment in water resources. And perhaps it's time to look at both of those projects and determine where the priority is, whether it's for the 2,000 golf members or the 200 swimmers. It is a golf and country club. And my advice is to let the board debate this and figure out where the resources ought to be applied. And if it needs a new storage area, let's get that funded and get moving on that before we start to redo a pool. Thanks.
I believe that, the current idea is to have the membership vote, and what the membership says is what the club will do. If we vote and the membership say, no, we don't need a pool, we won't build one. I think that's probably it in a nutshell. And Bob Cooley is a guy that I respect as much as my own father. And I do. There is a lot of truth to what Bob says. But Let's let the membership decide, because that's kind of how this place works.
I'm Joan Foot, and I kind of going along with the pool. I like the idea of the pool, but I'm not understanding. I listened to the presentation on the internet or wherever. I listened to the presentation that was on the pool, the whole thing. I read through this whole brochure, and I still don't understand how this huge building is going to fit over there, and how much of the view from the clubhouse it's going to block, or is it going to be below our vision, and how close is it to the 18th green? It just, to me, seems like an awful lot of structure out there, and I don't understand how it's all going to fit in there. It seems like there's not enough space for that. And none of the diagrams show the clubhouse in relation to this building. So that's one question I have. And the other question while I'm on my feet is the Airbnbs that seem to be growing in Alto. And I just don't understand how people are buying property and turning it over for rent, and we have to live here more permanently and put up with the parties and the noise and all of the issue of people renting these Airbnbs and then getting access to the clubhouse and the golf course ahead of maybe the residents up here. Anyway, I know those are two separate issues, but now I'm done.
On the Airbnbs, we do not have any jurisdiction over what you can do with your house. You may rent it. As far as club usage, we do have authority on that, and they do not have access to the club as an Airbnb. It has to go, anybody that rents a piece of property, if they use the club, their fees that would be charged during that time have to be billed back to the owner of that piece of property. And it's with the owner's permission and that it is given. That's not happening because nobody wants to take a chance on just somebody they don't know being able to charge to their account. So we have shut that part of it down by changing the rules that way. So I can't answer anything else. We just do not dictate how you can use your property.
Bob Cooley is one of the most diplomatic gentlemen I've ever known. Tom is also very diplomatic. And I'm going to restate what Bob just said. We have a water issue, ladies and gentlemen. Not only at Outlaw, that's our most critical issue, but we're going to have an overall water issue in southern New Mexico, and we're going to be affected by it. So the question is, do we encumber $3 million in cash to build a pool? $3 million of our cash used as collateral to get a loan to build a facility that is unnecessary? Or do we take the cash that we have and solve an immediate critical problem at Outlaw? Now, the member survey is going to go out after we vote. We never did that with the golf courses. We always ask the members first, what do you think? Then we made the proposals. So unless we give the members the information that's been shared in this room today, that we have a critical water need at Outlaw, or would you rather spend the money and build a swimming pool? We are not being fair with the membership that is not in this room today, and I just can't even conceive of a board of directors taking that direction during a very, very critical time. Thank you.
Mr. Duncan, thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? Mr. Blackshear.
I would just ask as a follow-up to what Ron Duncan said, would the board consider, as they put out the positives about the pool, submitting a summary of this discussion about the other issues facing the club?
Of course. I mean, yeah. With the ballot, I don't know, we would have to, I don't know, I'd have to read the bylaws and make sure that's something that we wouldn't legally be able to do. I don't know.
No, I'm not trying to ask a difficult question. It just seems to me that what do we have here? Less than 10% of the membership? And this is important information as people consider this issue. That's the point.
No, I agree. Don't you think, though, a vote of the membership will answer that question?
Not unless the membership is informed.
You don't think the membership is aware that it's dry at Outlaw?
I don't think the membership who didn't hear this discussion will be nearly as informed as the people who are in this room.
Makes sense. Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
My name is Mike Tyler. I've been a member 20 plus years here. I don't think that everyone is on the same page. There is a crisis at Outlaw. The board didn't recognize it. I believe Lynn disagreed with this gentleman that it's not a crisis. You've got 85% of your fairways unusable. It's cart path only. It's dead as it can be. It is a crisis, and until the board sees it as a crisis and the membership sees it as a crisis, we're going to talk it to death. Needs to be action now, storage action as well as well drilling action. I'm not familiar with the bylaws, but I believe in a crisis like this is. I think we've got to call it that. And until we realize that it is a water crisis, we're going to continue to study it. I'd like to see immediate action to address what's happening at Outlaw. Thank you.
Mr. Tyler, correct? Tyler, thank you for appreciate your thoughts. One thing that I don't think people realize is that this is all being recorded and it'll be on Facebook. Or is it on Facebook Live? Yep. It's actually live right now on Facebook and will be on there for people to review. And so I think in respect to Gus, we'll get this information out and let the membership know how the people in this room feel. Is everybody in this room against building a swimming pool? So that's why it needs to be voted on. You know, there's people, I understand if people don't use that facility or don't see the value in it or whatever, you know, I understand. But in our environment, the way these things are dealt with is through a membership vote. But I agree that this information needs to be dispensed out. People need to be informed to make a decision. So, yes, Ms. Spaniel.
Dr. Spaniel, and my name is Carla Westbrook Spaniel, And I've been a member since 2002 when we bought our home. And the question is why this year, out of all of the years that we've been members, were all of the items on the ballot grouped together? That's never happened. They were all individual, so people could vote individually on the ballots for each item that affected all of us as members.
Carla, that went out and it should have been separated, but since they weren't, the vote still came in, and I will announce the vote in just a little bit, very shortly. But they probably should have been separated, but the answers were overwhelmingly, when they came in, the fact that they were not separated did not seem to affect the vote. It was overwhelming on how it went down. Any other questions?
I want to address the Airbnb. I have been in several.
The Airbnbs, I've been in them several times lately. And as far as the noise restrictions, almost every rental addresses that it is a community or whatever, excuse me. And there are noise restrictions after 10 o'clock, da-da-da-da-da. All you have to do is report it to Airbnb, the property, etc., and it will be addressed, and that homeowner will not be able to go back on Airbnb again. So just address Airbnb directly.
Thank you. If there aren't any more questions, one more?
I haven't been here as long as many of you, but I love the facility. We love coming up here. Everything has been just great. And we've talked with Tom a lot, and I'm not sure if maybe these questions about the pool have been addressed that we missed, but maybe some others have missed. Regarding the pool is 40 years old. That's going to take a lot of maintenance and cost to keep this pool running. And I know that that's important to the 200 members that want to swim there, if that's what it is. But I think more would come and swim because of the new facility. Looks like it's going to have a place for children, a place for adults, a place for where maybe you can do some laps and stuff like that along with the facility. I don't know how it's orientated. I would like that answer too, because I'm not sure how it fits over there. And I was hoping that that would get addressed. But I think that if some of the people may not understand the pool's condition, and that's why it's needed, and it would be, I think, a really nice plus to this community.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm Sybil Jean Beeman. I've been a member here a little over 30 years. And a lot of our friends up here had mentioned the problems at Outlaw. Unfortunately, unlike my parents, I don't arrive in May and go back in September. I had no clue how bad it really was. Is it possible that maybe photographs could be shown maybe on the website or somewhere in the newsletter so people would understand how bad the water issue has become? Because I've been told about it, but I had no clue how bad it was. Thank you. Thank you. Dave?
rates pay the highest water rates in the state, just about. Okay? And we outlaw the country club own the water rights out at the Outlaw. And it's cheap water. So, you know, you got a water problem in Outlaw, but you're going to have to spend some money on it. You could go to the water district, I think they've already done this, and reach an agreement, but the water rates will go up. So, you know, I think the board's already considered this, but that's a way to solve that. Another way to solve the problem. On the condition of the golf course out there, I haven't seen it, but I've been a member here a long time. When I first came to Alta Lakes Golf and Country Club, we were cart paths only. In the summer, the fairways were pretty poor. So, you know, it's not something we haven't seen before, but it is an outlaw matter. So that's just a couple of comments.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, I think it's time to try to wrap this up. First of all, I want to thank the members of the board that are going off this year. Dave Power, thank you for all your hard work as secretary. That is not an easy job. He had some really great help with Maggie, but thank you for your time and effort, Dave. Appreciate it. Les Bailey, thank you for all of your time and effort. I know. That's good. But he has spent untold hours working for the benefit of this organization. So thank you so very much. Now it's time to announce the results of the ballot that went out. I'm going to start with the bylaws. We had 1,304 approved, 193 disapproved. So bylaw changes have passed. On the water resolution for keeping the funds collected and opening up, we've opened up a new account and restricting those funds for water production, water distribution, and water storage. And that was passed 889 for, disapproved 289. Now, for the 3 new members coming on for the board of directors, I'm going to just do it in alphabetical order, no totals given. Debbie Cran, Bruce Ellis, and Jimmy Mace. Congratulations. As soon as this is over with, the board will please meet in the boardroom. New members, please be there as soon as possible. You need to elect a new president, and that is your order of business today. I will not be running the meeting as I am going off the board, so our Vice President, John Stern, will be conducting the meeting. Thank all of you for attending. Oh, Tom has some.
Just one little side note. One of the reasons why this isn't done out there was because we were being asked to put fire suppression in a metal building that's with open ends. And after some negotiating, and again, Mr. Bailey is very prominent in this, we just saved the club $100,000 by challenging it, and now it will not have to be sprinkled. So we have some money now, a little bit of money that we might be able to use to address, some maybe a little quicker fix for the water at Outlaw. And it's a crisis until it rains. And so to me, the water situation at Outlaw has been a crisis since the day we took it over, because nothing has changed, other than the water table maybe dropping a little bit. So hopefully, we've got rain in the forecast for 7 days in a row. When we're out in here enjoying the Eagles tribute band next Saturday night, we'll have to close the doors because it's pouring outside. And then hopefully we can relax a little bit. So thank you for your participation. Thank you for caring. And look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.